All right, we are back live. This is your Bullet Punch Boxing Hour.
My bad.
What was that?
Are we on?
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, that was good. That was good.
Smooth transition there from. Yeah, you're on.
Great. This is your Bullet Punch Boxing Hour, brought to you by George Rogie Insurance, www.bulletpunchboxinghour.com. Streaming to you live, as always, right here on Ustream.tv. Timmy, how can our listeners get in touch tonight?
Hit us up on the hotline, 219-743-9743. Yahoo Instant Messenger is up and running. Keyword Bullet Punch Boxing Hour. But the best way to reach us is in the chat room via Ustream.tv.
All right. Thanks again to Pete the Heat Perry of his website that we're not going to name a fifth time. We've already given him 4. And he promised us $1,000 per plug. So as soon as that $4,000 shows up, I'll say I'll say the website's name again. Anyway, I've got Eric, that guy Gibson, right here on my left. Eric, what's going on with you, man?
Not a whole lot, man. Just back in school.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am an MMA fan, but boxing's what's in my blood, so I will defend it to the death. I always will, always have. And you are just the same about mixed martial arts. It's very difficult to separate the two sports these days because they're both fight sports and they're both violent and they're over there.
They're over there.
They're over there. It's not polo. It's not cricket or golf. These guys are actually trying to hurt one another. So,
absolutely.
But then when you get into the fight sports, you've got, I mean, this is what I'm quoting Dan Raphael, sort of quoting him. You've got 3 different kinds of combat sport fans. You've got these crazy, young, the main objective demographic of the 18 to 25 year old.
18 to 24.
Whatever, of the MMA guys, the people, the people that boxing used to have, you guys now have. Now we are, we're the 35 to, eternity.
To eternity. 35 to in the grave.
Yeah, pretty much.
And actually, boxing lost solo boxeo because of that, because the demographic was an older demographic and they wanted a young demographic.
They wanted young,
and it was not at all because of ratings. I mean, they had solid ratings, and it just wasn't what their focus group was.
I almost hope
they want to be young and in your face.
Next fails, just so they can say, you know what? Why can you say goodbye to something that's working?
Well, the new what is it, Aztec? I don't know exactly what it's called. It's Aztec
Americana.
Yeah, they actually kind of took over for.
Fine. It's not the same.
Telefutura.
Not the same group. Not the
it's
same
not the same group, but
they
kind of took over once the other group left, basically.
Okay, well, what we're talking about tonight, and the reason I brought this big ugly dude in, is we've got an event in Pensacola, Florida, Saturday night at the Florida State, at the Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida, under Roy Jones Promotions, called
Pretty
Square
big
Ring.
event too. I mean, historically.
We're not going to pretend that this has never happened. There have been events in the last couple of years that have married some boxing with some MMA on the same night, but never has a name like Roy Jones lent his name, his visage, his name, and his ass.
Well, Roy
He's
Jones
also getting in the ring.
Roy Jones just beat De La Hoya and Golden Boy to the punch.
Well, De La Hoya is also trying to get into this type of thing.
He's getting his feet wet.
trying to partner with Affliction, and it just hasn't happened yet. And here Roy Jones Jr. comes in and just kind of says, "Here I am, I'm doing it."
Oscar's not looking to fight on these cards.
No, that's the big thing here.
He just wants to sit back in front row in his $12,000 suit and just cash the checks.
Yep. No, Jones is getting in there and fighting at this event also.
And
that's
he's fighting
cool.
a very dangerous Omar Shika. Now, Omar Shika's got more losses than Roy does at 27-8, but he is very, very dangerous. Very, very crazy that he's going to be the main event of an event that he's promoting, of which case I believe they're going to start the evening with some MMA fights.
Yes, it says several MMA fights.
Yeah,
there's going to be about 15 fights.
I count about 8 MMA fights.
Well, whether it be, yeah, and I've got 6 boxing matches here in front of me. So you've got your fights, I've got mine. What are some of the MMA names that we might have heard of?
You know what? I don't
You
know
haven't
that
heard
you've
of any of them.
ever heard of any of these guys. They're up and comers, lower weight classes, welterweights and below. So you got welterweights, lightweights, featherweights, and bantamweights.
Well,
Basically,
it wouldn't be odd that a lot of these guys train in the same gym with Roy
Oh,
or
yeah.
BJ Flores, who are both on this card.
right, stuff like this. And these are the weight classes you're going to see on WEC and not in the UFC necessarily. You got lightweights in the UFC, but and welterweights and everything. But the featherweights and bantamweights, if you get mainstream exposure, it's usually like WEC or something like that. So
They're getting picked up wherever.
right.
Yeah.
So these are lower weight classes. You don't have some of the high power, middleweights, light heavyweights, heavies and everything like that. So these guys are up and comers. Some of them, the records aren't that great. A couple undefeateds here though, so we could be seeing these names in the future.
Yeah,
So,
you
so
can't
what?
hate
So
it,
what
but-
I was quoting earlier, Dan Raphael of ESPN2, ESPN.com, obviously. He says there's 3 different kinds of fight sport fans.
Right.
You've got the crazy MMA young kids. You've got the crazy boxing fans that are diehard. Their dad watched boxing. His dad watched boxing, so I watch boxing, which pretty much is what I am.
Yeah.
And then you've got this tiny little sliver, this hybrid in the middle, of which
I'm a hybrid.
I firmly believe I am part of this demographic. Someone who loves both and is willing to accept the fact that there is room for both.
I can't believe that you picked a topic that we both agree on. You've never
That's
done
very
this before.
rare. That's very, very rare.
All right, that ends this
Yeah, I
segment.
know,
We'll be right
I know.
back in a few
I'm
minutes.
serious.
And tomorrow, the planet Saturn will be in my backyard. Back to you.
Yes.
I'd have to say that Roy Jones, if you look at him,
Yeah.
he thinks there's room for both. He thinks that
Well-
if you put them together, it's going to help both.
I think that it could help both. I think it could bring boxing fans to MMA and MMA fans to boxing. I think a lot of these big names, though, are looking to cash in on the growing popularity of MMA, though. So we'll see where it goes for them. Looks like we're passing a tamale.
Didn't expect you to stop right there.
Sorry.
No, I,
I
I find it interesting. I think when you're dealing with 2 sets of fans, and I'm going to call boxing fans the Cub fans of the world, and I'm going to no. And I'm going
100-year losers.
I'm going
Sorry.
to call
Sorry.
the MMA fans the White Sox fans.
damn straight White
In that
Sox.
they are the biggest a-holes around. And I love
I
MMA.
try.
I've been at many pay-per-views at your house, your brother's house, whatever. And I've watched MMA since its inception.
Yeah, same here.
In the very early '90s with the Gracies and whatnot.
Yep.
And I'm very much a backer of the sport as a sport. I don't like some of the directions it's taken because I don't think it's learned from the obvious mistakes that Don King, Bob Arum, and the like have performed here
Some
in our
people are
sport.
trying really hard to learn from it. People like Dana White, I don't think are. And yes, this is an outright, flat-out criticism of Dana White. If he ever hears this, well, I guess I'm not getting a Christmas card from him. But it's all right now. It's all about putting on marquee fights and everything rather than legit fights. So that's my criticism. There is if you want to learn from the past, look at boxing. I love boxing. I've been watching that since I was a little boy myself and everything like that. You have the opportunity to take something that is very, very similar and directly learn from it, and it doesn't seem to be going on right now. So
There is a perfect business model
Right.
of what to not do.
there are things as to what to do also, though. That's the thing,
Very
is
much
that
so.
people don't necessarily equate with this, is that you can learn the things not to do and learn the things to do from
Well, yeah,
boxing.
they're right.
So
They're both side
I
by
mean,
side. But well, bottom line, the reason that I really brought you on, talk to our listeners. Talk to our listeners that don't give a crap, and you've got 1 minute to do it.
all right.
Who don't give a crap about MMA. Why should they tune in to Roy Jones's event this Saturday?
Because Roy Jones is a huge name in boxing, and he thinks that MMA may be worth it. Now, there's something to that when a boxer with the ego of Roy Jones Jr. says, "Hey, there's something to this. We can do this. We can coexist." And there, like I said, there is room for both. There is room for both. If it wasn't for boxing, there wouldn't be MMA. Period. You wouldn't see fight sports on TV. You wouldn't see the pay-per-views. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter.
And there we are. We're going to take a break. Eric Gibson just confirmed that boxing is a hell of a lot better than MMA.
Oh, I did not say that. Thank you.
Bolo Punch Boxing Hour, brought to you by George Rogie Insurance. www.bolopunchboxinghour.com. Streaming to you live as always on Ustream.tv.
Hey guys, it's Chris. I got to tell you something. as crazy as things get around here, covering fights and press conferences, blogs.